Okay, this is just a piece of charred wood out of last night's campfire. Now, charred wood doesn't work as well as people think it does if it's outside in the air in the fire because it's burned. It's not really charred, it's been burned. But with magnification, you can still take advantage of that. It's a little more difficult with things like flint and steel, but if you've got a good magnification lens, try to get this where you guys can see it. I'm hoping you guys are seeing that glowing. That's just a piece of wood from last night's fire. Again, you're not going to get it done this easy with a ferro rod or with flint and steel most of the time. But something that's right off the ground sitting outside, you can get that, make it happen with a magnifier as long as you have a good enough glass. And this one's pretty big that I used on this one. But a small one would probably work as well. But that's a nice big glowing ember that you got plenty of time to mess around with. Okay, let's talk about another tinder material that we can find naturally if we don't have charred material. Maybe this is our first fire. Cattail down. Cattail down is really a flash tinder. It goes up very quickly and burns out very quickly. So again, you have to compress the material. So you're going to have to take yourself a pretty good wad of it, and you're going to have to roll it up tight into a ball. And really, the smaller that ball is, the better. And if your cattail fluff is going bad on you because it's rotten, it's not going to be as easy to get this accomplished. But this is old cattail fluff that I had in the yurt. But we'll see if we can make it work. So we've got a compressed material here. I've made it into like a cone now. Kind of looks like a incense cone. We'll use our Hudson Bay magnifying glass for this one. Just kind of switching it back and forth on the magnifiers for you guys so you can see that they all work. Again, I can get closer with this one because it's not as powerful as the other one was. And I just want to let it burn down in there good until that black spot starts to get pretty wide and spread out. And then I'll know that when I take my magnification off of it, I'm still going to have an ember. And again, now I have a smoldering ember that I can just let sit there and coagulate just like I would a bow drill ember, until I'm ready to put that in a bird nest, and it's just going to grow larger and larger and larger. Now you can see that ember's burning a lot faster and growing a lot quicker, and that's because cattail burns fast. The bark is going to have a lot more longevity than the cattail down. So you have to understand the limitations of the material that you're using when you're getting ready to do this stuff. If I was going to use that, I'd want a really, really, really good, robust bird nest that I had 100% confidence in with no doubt it was dry. If I were using something like the bark or something with more longevity, then maybe I could have a little bit more marginal tinder material because I've got more time to heat it up. Okay, so before we go to charred materials, let's discuss funguses for a minute. This is a piece of old dried out horsehoof fungus, and it doesn't have to be completely dry for solar embers. You can make damp materials work, and this is a piece of chaga or Tinder fungus. So you can see the difference in what these look like. This is like a flat plate with ridges on it that comes up like a horse's hoof from the tree. This is a big knot. Looks like it's been burnt. This stuff grows on birches at higher elevations, mostly in the northern U.S., although I have heard reports of it as far south as West Virginia, North Carolina, in high elevations. This stuff grows about everywhere on rotten hardwoods, so this is going to be easier for you to find. The difference between these two is their ability to be used for fire in different ways, and you have to understand those variables. With a piece of chaga like this, you could light an ember in this chaga using the sun, and you'd have to dig it out because it's going to continue to burn until you dig it completely out of there. So the best thing to do with this is to take a chunk of it and cut a chunk of it off, and you want this inner area like that is what you want. Doesn't take very much of this at all. This one piece that I've got setting aside right here is more than enough for an ember to make a fire. So if we take our magnification lens or our sunglass, get it in the right spot here. You want that light to be so white you can't hardly stand to look at it. That's when you'll know it's about right. And then once it starts smoking, obviously that's where you want to stay. Now with this fungus, it's going to take an ember very quickly. That thing is solid red. I don't know if I can show you that on camera or not, but I'll try. So this piece of chaga here is probably enough to start 30 or 40 fires, maybe more than that even, depending on how conservative you are with the embers. Keep something like this in a breathable, dry area. You don't want to put this thing inside of a dry bag or something that's going to hold any moisture. You want to put it in some type of breathable bag in a dry place. And this stuff will last pretty much forever. This piece here is probably 2 or 3 years old. Now, with horsehoof fungus, it's a little bit different. What you really want to do with this stuff is you want to process it down, and you can see this outer crust is not what you want. This inner amadou, the inside, is what you're looking for. So if you get that crusty shell off of there, get down to that inner stuff, that's what you want. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to process this a little bit, and that's the key element to a lot of things when it comes to making fire, is processing. And the way we're going to process this is we're going to grind it up into a powder. Because this is dry, it's going to grind up fairly well. I'm just going to grind it down with my hands, just like this, on this piece of wood, and pulverize it. It doesn't have to be completely powdered. It can have a few chunks in it, it's not going to matter. All I'm trying to do now is increase the amount of surface area that I have. Then I'm going to take my magnification lens and do exactly the same thing. And I'm going to light this pile up, probably in a couple of different places. Move my magnification lens around a little bit, just like this. And then I'm just going to sit and let it grow, just like any other ember. Okay, so as you can see, now that's grown into a pretty good size bunch of burning material. You're not going to put that out. You can move it around. It's going to continue to burn. You're going to continue to have all of that stuff on fire, and you can just put all of that in your bird nest. It's not going anywhere on you. It's going to continue to burn. It's hard to put this stuff out once you get it lit on fire. You scoop it up onto your knife blade or whatever and dump it in your bird nest just like that. And it's ready to rock. Okay. Now, that is basically creating an ember with solar energy or magnification off the landscape with no charred material. And generally speaking, anything that you use or would use to make your bird nest with, like inner barks, are going to work well for an ember as long as they're compressed. That's the secret to making an ember, is the material has to be compressed. You're not starting a fire, you're creating an ember. So now let's talk about charring and charred material. We've talked about charring in our other videos. I've got a char tin here that has a variety of charred material inside of it. It has everything from charred cloth to the inner pith of plants to punky wood. There's some more punky wood there. There's some pieces of fungus in here, some that are charred, some that are not. And then just a couple pieces of flint I can use with my knife to affect ignition. But any of these chunks or this char cloth will light up almost immediately with solar magnification. If you've got marginal sun, low sun in the sky, maybe you don't have the best magnifying glass in the world, charred material is your best bet because it's going to be the most highly combustible. And that's important when we're talking about solar magnification and solar embers. So let's just grab a piece of this punked material out of here, and instead of lighting it in the tin, I'll light it down here for you. I'll just lay it right here on this thing, and then we'll come back to the char cloth in just a minute. And let's go ahead and use our Hudson Bay tin again. Like I said, again, doesn't really matter what magnification lens you have. The bigger it is, the better, but it's not necessary. As long as it's about 5 power, an inch in diameter is going to be the most you really need. And I'm just trying to put this in this tin lid to keep it from rolling off, but you might be able to see it better if I do it out like this. If I can keep it from blowing away in the little bit of wind we got. I'll put it up against this piece of flint to keep that from happening. Okay. Now this stuff's going to light up, and you're not going to be able to tell it's on fire very easy because it's not going to smoke as much as the other stuff does. But it takes about 10 seconds of good light, and you're going to have an ember right there. That thing's on fire. I can see it from here. I'm going to try to zoom in on it and blow across it for you so you can see it, but that's definitely an ember right now. You can see the white tip of it, how you can tell it's burning. Let me see if I can get down there and blow on it a little bit for you in this camera and maybe get you to see some red. I don't know that I can. Oh, I blew it away there. You can tell by the white that it's on fire. Or that it is burning, I should say, not on fire, but it's a smoldering ember. I was trying to get some color for you there, but I don't think I'm going to get it. It's going to sit here and burn to nothing. But you can tell it's getting smaller and smaller. So the material is burning away. Okay, so let's use charred cloth here for a minute. We'll get rid of this ember here. Get a piece of charred cloth out here. Maybe you'll be able to see it burning better. I'll use a pretty good sized piece here so that we can get a better effect of the burn. Again, we'll go ahead and use our Hudson Bay for this. It's not going to take but a second for this to be on fire. I can already see it smoking a little bit, so I know it's already on fire in multiple places. Let me see if I can. Okay, I think you'll be able to see that if I zoom in on it. Pretty easy. That thing is absolutely burning up as an ember. So charred material is always going to go up very, very quickly with solar magnification. All right. So what I like to do, and I've talked about this in other videos, is I like to have a dedicated tin that I char material in. And I generally keep a couple of stones in there just to make sure that I've got them if I need them. Maybe even throw a little cattail down in there, a couple pieces of chaga, and even if I put a burning ember in there, when I put the lid on, it's going to smother it out. You could use this for your entire fire kit minus the charring tin, because you can't char in this tin because of the magnifying glass. But these do make very good fire kits, and they give you that ability to have that magnification lens with your fire kit all the time. Or you can just carry your magnifier separate, which is what I do. I just carry a separate one in my kit. So this basically is my fire kit plus my Bic lighter and my ferro rod. We'll talk about those things down the line. But I wanted you guys to get a good feel for how you create an ember with solar magnification and the multiple materials that you can use and the different properties of those materials. And that is, again, the key, the properties. So again, folks, properties of the material that you're using to make your fire is of the utmost importance. Species always matters, but understanding the properties of something you're looking for is better than nothing if you're in an unfamiliar environment. For me, I'm always going to look for loose, stringy barks, inner barks or outer barks. Those are going to be my best bet for something if I don't have charred material. If I want a char material, obviously I want something that has the longest burn time or the most longevity or is the most robust for material I'm going to char. Whether that be a heavier fungus or some type of the inner pith of a plant or some type of a punky wood, all of those things are going to outlast charred cloth for the most part. So charred cloth is going to be my last priority. But in a scenario of having a 10-piece kit, your cotton material or your cotton bandana is always your go-to for making char. But you always have to have that possum mentality to find things off the landscape that you can use so that you're not using the resources of your 10-piece kit. And the secret to that is just to get out, get dirty, and figure it out. I hope this helps you guys out. I appreciate everything that you do for our school, for our family, for our business. I appreciate your views and your support, and I'll be back in another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.